BOP, the BLERD official podcast. We are crazy today. This is the banana show. It's just been a crazy start to the day, but we are glad that we are here. We're glad that you're here, and I've got to get my co-hosts because they are so patient. Hilton George, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing fine. How you doing? We've been on trying to get Karan Ashley back online since the last show y'all watched. So this has been a long arc, and she's finally back just in time to join us and round out the set. So we're so happy that we're able to do this show because there's so many awesome things to talk about, and this is what tops out my week. So let's get in. Let's do it.
Get it in. Oh Lord.
Oh no, she didn't freeze.
I don't know. I have no idea what's happening now. Did everything just like freeze?
Either that or you had a seizure.
Yes,
I couldn't even see you guys. Like all you guys went black.
Oh my God.
I know. Today is not the day to mess with me, Internet America.
Follow the white rabbit, Neo.
Maybe it's one of those balloons that's like floating over our country that is intercepting the BOP. It is just bringing us down. Christi, how are you, my friend? How are you? Yes, I need like 3 minutes of like meditation to calm my nerves.
I am here. This has been fun so far. I love when we open a show and we're already cracking up. We're already laughing because it's just crazy. As you said, we're bananas. We are here and I'm excited. I have no idea what's on the menu today, but let's get it.
See, she probably has not done any of the homework assignments.
Listen, I'm busy. I'm booked and busy.
You know what? I'm booked and busy too.
I know. But
I just flew cross country.
It comes out of your head. Like you already conjure and you know. So sometimes I can't check the notes. I'll be like, what? It's Groundhog Day sometimes every time I wake up. So
I literally have to like message Christi and I'm like, Christi, check the chat. Like, and you know I'm yelling at you.
Yes, I know. I hear it.
You can hear it in my type. I don't even put capitals. I just, you know me.
And then and now I've stopped responding because usually I used to respond back to the original message. I just jump over in the chat. Let me go see what the hell.
Just to find out what's going on. Oh, well, guys, it has been so many things going on in this world. I mean, we've had a million balloons. We've had, another unfortunate mass shooting in this country. I don't know how many more of these we have to have, but you know what? Today we are going to have fun. We are not going to think about any of that stuff because all of that stuff will bring us down. And you know what? We're here to spread love and to just have a good time and help all of you forget about all of that. Okay. So
let's get it,
guys. There have been like some crazy like announcements that have been going on. We've been getting like multiple trailers. I think everybody was like, okay, we're going to use the Super Bowl to just announce it all.
Let's just dump it all on the Super Bowl.
And you know those commercials are like $1 trillion for like 30 seconds. But all of these, I guess they figure, well, hey, everybody's watching Rihanna. So let's just go ahead. Right. Mm-hmm. Let's just go ahead and sneak it all in. But before we start watching these trailers and giving you our 2 cents, let's talk about Rihanna. I mean, how was that halftime show?
I
loved it. I did too.
I thought it was amazing. I was like, is she floating? Is this like is this Smash Brothers? Like what is going on with the platforms? Like man,
I love the set design because it was just out of this world. And you know, Rihanna is just out of this world. She totally walks to the beat of her own drum. But let me just first of all say, like, I walked up some stairs the other day and was out of breath. I don't know how the hell she did 17 minutes with a baby in her belly. Like, come on.
Yeah. Well, she did it so cool and classy. She has a way. She has an aesthetic that is just so. It's like liquid. Like she knows how to do the right like stuff,
and it's sexy.
It don't take a lot. And then she has this, entourage of folk. And again, this is a boss. Like she hasn't performed in over 6 years for anybody. She has built her brands up, and the fact that she had her brand all over that stage, all over all
Mm-hmm.
the stages. She had her makeup, she had her clothing brand. Like, that's a boss. That's an
All of
absolute
it.
boss move. And she can take all the time away she wants and have those babies. Now, that one, the first one is 9 months old. Now she's pregnant with the second one. And here's the thing, I
What
did
are
the
those
exact,
called? They're
but
like
I did,
Irish twins or something. I
yes,
forget what
yes.
it's called.
That's what my two oldest boys are. Kingdom was
Yeah.
9 months old, and here come Christian. So I mean, it's like,
Oh,
hey, so God bless her. She is fire. She
yes.
is fierce. I love it. I actually reclaimed, just loving her again, because when she came out, which I'm sad because there's two songs she didn't do that I was looking for and waiting for. Some Hyundai Replay, because that was what put her on the
Yes.
scene. And of
Yes.
course, we wanted to hear "Lift Me Up." So,
Yeah.
I just, other than that, those are my only critiques. I thought she was
Well, don't forget she did like 47 set
She,
changes before the show, and it was like so many
yeah.
set changes because every little thing, and we didn't understand when it was announced. It was kind of leaked that that's what happened.
Yeah.
yeah,
But when you saw the show, you're like, oh, okay. If you change or rearrange the order of the songs in any way, the choreography, obviously these platforms that are floating, the cameras, which were part of the show. Somebody was
yes,
asking me about it, like, oh man, I wish I was there. And I'm kind of like, nah, I think we got a better show at home because we were getting the camera eye view, and the camera work was as much responsible for the success of that show as the performance itself, because it was the sequencing. There was like 7 cameras running around the stage catching all these angles, and I
it
only
was
counted 2
amazing.
times where one camera caught another camera in its shot. And people might not know how hard it is to
That is,
accomplish that with all that choreography, people moving around,
The
platforms floating
timing,
up or down,
the
and
lighting.
2
Yeah.
of the cameras were on strings, on those little ropes, the ones they use during the game. So I was
Yeah.
just like, okay, we got the better show because they use those angles in the sequencing of the shots and the changing of the montages. And so yeah, I was really happy with it. I thought it was really, really well done. Yes,
incredible.
she's like 4 or 5 months pregnant, something like that. But what I
Yeah.
also said to somebody, it's like, oh, she couldn't do all the moves she would normally do. I was like, have you seen a Rihanna concert?
She's
She
never really
she's
done
not
She
that.
really
doesn't
doing like
do,
Beyonce, like
yeah,
trying
No.
to keep
she's
up with the
different.
dancers. She's always kind of moving around doing her own thing.
Yeah,
She'll get over here in the corner, start crooning one side of the stage. She'll do a little twerk moves or something like that.
yeah,
But she's not doing
Yeah.
backflips and Cirque du Soleil,
yeah.
in the first
Mm-mm.
place. So, we're not
She
missing a whole lot
vibes.
of Rihanna's performance that we would normally get
Yeah.
just because she's pregnant. So I'm
And
I'm
people
not
are
buying it.
morons. Sorry.
I'm
There
not
and,
buying it.
and and this is the thing. Rihanna's always been
Weird.
a vibe. She's
A
always
vibe.
been the vibe. So it's like she gave us everything we needed to get. I didn't even realize how many freaking hits she's had. Like it was
I
hit after
forgot.
hit. And then it would be like one song she'd be singing and another song would start
Start
playing.
rolling
And she
in.
didn't even like
Yes.
necessarily do that song, but it was like hit after hit after
Yeah.
hit. I was just like, man, it was great. Yeah. So all those people who were talking crazy about her, y'all better back up off our queen,
Back
because
up.
back up. Like, and I love that the internet was like, oh,
Wait.
absolutely not.
Wait.
Absolutely not.
Riri stands. Get it together. Listen, we can't.
Yeah.
But we cannot. We can't talk about the halftime show, Rihanna's halftime show, without shouting out who was the other star of the show, which
Oh,
was
ASAP
I
her
Rocky.
have it on my
ASL,
list.
Justina Mills,
Yes.
is unbelievable, hands down. Like she, when I tell you that's a
Yeah.
boss, she
She
was like, it was
was
crazy. It was
better
crazy.
have
She
my
rocked that.
money.
Yeah,
I
I
was
mean,
like,
she
I was
was.
watching her, I was sitting there like, wait a minute, that ain't no ASL. That's it. That's universal right there. Like we all know this. Like, hold up. You
Yeah,
jumping in and out of the language. It's
and we
kind of
know this.
you
Well, I
having
learned that
fun
a long
on your
time
own
ago.
with this.
Yes.
Yeah, she
Yes.
did it. She did the dang
She
thing. She was
I want
amazing.
her to do I want her to do everything, every
Everything.
concert. Like she just needs to be the person that's at the Grammys, she's at the Tonys, she just needs to be everywhere because she was amazing. And I agree. Thank you, Christy, for shouting her out.
I couldn't wait
The
to say
other,
something about her. She was great.
yeah, the other beauty who helped to help them open the show,
Oh,
Miss Shirley Ralph, saying
yes.
lift every voice. You know, it's so
Hello.
funny. All those terrible people who are on who all the racist governors and senators and all those
Just,
people,
yeah,
they had the
clowns.
nerve. Like it's funny because they say nowadays if you hear the word woke, just put Black people, because they'll say we don't need all this woke at our Super Bowl. We don't need all these Black people at our Super Bowl. So just now when you move forward, just know that that's what they're saying and that's what they're doing. But we're not going to give them any attention because, honey, we did that. We had two Black quarterbacks going head to head. It was an amazing game.
First time ever in history.
Yeah, and even if you're not a football fan, I'm a huge football fan, but even if you're not, it was such a competitive game, and it was just back and forth, and it was like at the end, you just didn't know who was going to win, and then, of course, the referees, they make a stupid call, and, you know, they kind of, they force the game. Yeah, they force the game.
By the way, the characterization of that last call will tell you what side somebody was on, who they were rooting for.
Exactly.
There's no San Francisco fans. There's no Kansas City fans that are like, that was a stupid call. They're just like,
oh, well, here we go.
Eagle fans are like, them some bitches.
You know, I mean, I think the only thing that the only reason why we aren't just like going crazy is because Kansas City was like, they had changed the whole tempo of the game, and they were, you know, pretty much running the charge. So, but still,
I don't think that call would have changed the outcome of the game, though. I mean, it was a 5-yard penalty.
Yeah,
and the play that got that touchdown, I think would have still been that play if they'd been 5 yards, you know, sooner.
Yeah.
So it changed some of the energy, maybe narrowed some of that window for opportunity for Eagles to come back, but it wasn't like we've given them the game on some call that might be controversial. So I learned a lot because they had a lot of review too. Like I was like, wait,
did.
Like you got the ball, but if it's doing so, if you don't have it and then you 2 feet in,
if it moves at all, then you don't really have possession. Yeah, it's very technical. And luckily we've got instant replay because there have been big upsets that have happened in the history of football where, and it's always that way. Like, I don't understand why there's like the referees, you can just kind of feel which direction they want it to go in or which direction the NFL wants it to go in. Even the NBA, you've seen it on major NBA games where the refs will call this terrible call. It changes the course of the game. But I will say this, I just want to shout out all the players and all the people because that was such an entertaining Super Bowl Sunday.
Very good competition.
Yeah. And I was literally on a flight home. And like by the time I had 2 flights, because, you know, I was in Missouri, so there was no direct flight to Springfield, Missouri. So I had to fly and I stopped exactly. I stopped in the game had started when we took off and then we had to lay over in Dallas. And when I got in Dallas, I just uploaded it on my app and Rihanna was right there. Like the start of her show. So I watched Rihanna on my layover and then I watched the rest of the game on my plane. So shout out to American for having live TV. Right? Like we can watch live TV, right? It's crazy. Exactly. So anyways, besides that, we saw a whole array of commercials that some were funny and some were stupid. But we also got the Guardians of the Galaxy trailer. This is the final movie. I've always been a Guardians fan. I love that it's funny. I love the comedy. I love the timing. The chemistry between the cast is undeniable. But we got a really cool trailer. We get a little bit more of a glimpse of who they're going up against and a little bit more. So let's get to that and we will see what we all think. Okay, so hold, please. I'm
gonna tell you something. I'm Star-Lord. I formed the Guardians. Met a girl, fell in love. That girl died, but then she came back. Came back a total dick.
You left out some important information, but that is the gist of it.
Same old dreams, same time every night. Fall to the ground and I wake up.
My sacred mission
is to create the perfect society.
He didn't want to make things perfect. He just hated things the way they are.
I want you all to know that I'm grateful
to fight beside my friends.
Incinerate them.
We were always searching for a family until we found each other. Are you ready for one last ride?
We'll all fly away together.
Into the forever and beautiful sky.
Whoever it was that you were in love with, it sounds more like her.
Her? That's ridiculous.
Do not bring me into this.
Knock it off!
What? Never noticed how black your eyes were.
They were replaced by my father as a method of torture.
He picked a pretty set.
Okay, we're back. Okay. Oh my gosh, that was funny.
Yeah,
Look,
that's gonna be funny.
I think we're literally gonna laugh and we're gonna cry
Yeah.
on this one.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
It'll be a
Just
roller
like-
coaster.
just like
Looks like
two.
a roller coaster.
they are literally setting us up for heartbreak, and we are just gonna be no good.
No good. Yeah.
Mhm. Yep.
Aw. What do you think, Hilton? I mean, it's coming to an end. We're probably going to lose some really cool characters we love. What do you think about the trailer and what it's kind of given us?
Well, I'm excited that they have cast the High Evolutionary because his storyline plugs right into Rocket Raccoon. And Rocket Raccoon, we call him Rocket in the MCU, but in the comics, his name was Rocket Raccoon. The High Evolutionary was one who took animals and evolved them to men. And it's tied into Wundagore, the mountaintop where the Scarlet Witch died, so to speak, in the last Doctor Strange. He's this Earth scientist who just evolves himself into almost an energy form, and we're seeing the evolution in the trailer for that. And I think we're going to lose. It's been widely rumored, so this really isn't a spoiler, but it's that this is going to be Drax's last movie. Batista not playing that role anymore. How and what circumstances, I think, is going to be a little bit more of the gist. The fact that the studio kind of acknowledged, the leak of this means that it's not the secret of it is not a huge spoiler in and of itself. I'm also really excited about Adam Warlock. He is the character in gold with the, Yes, he is a major character in Marvel Comics.
Really good actor too, playing him.
And a very good actor. You may remember him from Vacation, the remake of Vacation.
Yes.
And several other movies. He's actually a Brit, but he never seems to play one on the screen.
They don't.
Really interesting.
They just come and play American roles,
Right, and then they're in the interviews, confusing the hell out of everybody. Like, what? Like,
you're like,
what?
who is that? What are
he
you
got
saying?
super buff. He got super jacked for this movie. How they're going to play him as the nemesis or anti-hero or whatever, but he was built to kill the Guardians of the Galaxy. But as such a major character in the MCU, I don't think that that's going to last long. I think at some point he's going to turn and end up being an ally. But we're seeing some amazing lines. We're seeing the characters come back, and I'm just I think it's going to be a really interesting way to kick off at least this galactic phase of Phase 5, just like they did in Phase 2 when it came in with Guardians of the Galaxy, kind of opened up the MCU to this intergalactic world. I think we're going to see a lot of that exposition and some really cool storylines. So I'm excited. I love the laughter. I love the banter. The connection in these characters has always been amazing. So they can't do wrong by me as long as they keep up what they've been doing.
I agree, and I'm happy to see Mean Gamora come back. I was kind of like, obviously we lost Gamora in Endgame or Infinity War, and it was one of those things where I felt like, gosh, they're going to do the last movie. I hope she's a part of it in some way. And we knew they were playing with it, like somehow she may be back or whatever. But Christi, what were your thoughts?
Well, I I love Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean, I remember when the first one came out, of course, I went with the kids, and we have been fans of that. I mean, the iconic music that we get, the soundtrack alone is like a main character in each of these films. And also, I gotta just touch on this, like everything y'all just said, like absolutely hands down, 1000%. All these different characters and how the storyline is going, who's going to be, who's not going to be. I agree, it's going to be a roller coaster of emotions.
Yeah.
And I never believe when they say this is it. It's never it. Like I'm okay. I just have embraced that in my life.
Right.
However, I want to say a new trend that I'm on board with, which is we're starting to get more Black villains. And so that's really interesting for me. I think that's an interesting dynamic, but typically what happens, and we saw this with Killmonger, there's always an extreme trauma, an extreme oppression of sorts that causes that to come out in these characters who become these villains or bad guys. But the antagonistic nature was literally created in them because of the world around them. And so I love to see, like with Kang, but then I know he's in different universes, of course.
Kang,
but what
Namor,
prompted him,
Killmonger, all of them.
And what it says, it speaks volumes to the fact, again, when you apply these concepts to real life, like that's typically where that deep, dark side comes from, is because it's been erupted by trauma, by pain, by loss, by grief, like whatever. It's something, vengeance, it drives, but vengeance is created by what? There's something that has happened, something really bad that's happened to somebody. So I think I'm just excited. Yes, I'm excited to see the actor that's playing. Like, again, when I saw that, I was like, well, wait a second.
I
know. we got another one. We get another
one.
Well, what's really interesting about that, Christi, is that the High Evolutionary, other than in the throwbacks, like in the comic book when they do the flashbacks to his time as a scientist, other than that, he is ambiguous because he is in armor, right? Almost kind of like a Galactus and everything like that. So he really wasn't that clearly defined by his race. So to take this opportunity to cast an African American in the role is really cool because he's an amazing actor. If you were watching season 2 of Peacemaker, or season 1 of Peacemaker,
season 1 of Peacemaker,
you saw him playing an agent working under Amanda Waller, and so you had this really great performance that he can act. Right. Yeah. And then he did the rollout during, San Diego Comic-Con this past summer. Now, I got to say, a lot of folks aren't really going to start focusing on him until after Quantumania, because as far as like the Black villain, everyone's focused on Kang right now. It's all Kang. We want to know what's going on with Kang.
He deserves it all. He deserves it all.
So it's only when Kang is done making his debut as the main villain, then I think we'll start looking over at the High Evolutionary and trying to see what he's going to do. But I'm telling you, he's an amazing character in the comics. He's always one of my favorite characters, oddly enough, even though he wasn't the most popular villain. And he wasn't really even so much of a villain. He's a little more of a mad scientist with a slightly skewed, view of where humanity should go and where it should origin from. So I hope that they give him that nuance because he is from Earth, and therefore the trauma and that identity as a Black man and might enter somewhat into his story and background in the same kind of interesting way that we saw with Killmonger and other characters that we've seen introduced. So I'm excited for all the same reasons, Christi.
Yeah. Well, you know what I do? I love it because it's almost like Marvel takes the opportunity to low-key give all these kids that are watching these movies a history lesson. And it's like this next generation really, even if like whatever's going on in our government in these crazy states, you're going to get it from them, and
One
Marvel's
way
always
or
gonna,
another.
yeah, Marvel's always gonna slide it in there, and they do it so cool, and they do it
Yes.
so, like, they always give characters, you really can't hate anybody on the show. Like, you may have a
Right.
favorite, you may have this, but even the bad guy has some sort of humanity that is driving that evil, and so you understand it. You may not agree with it, but you understand, you know,
Mm-hmm.
what made them the way that they are. So I'm so excited. And a few weeks ago, I sent Dana and Christy a picture of of, of Jonathan Majors and his Creed muscles, and I said,
Ooh,
"Happy
child.
Valentine's Day."
Ooh,
Hilton was
child.
mad. I owe you, Hilton. I still owe you a picture of
She
someone
look.
you
She
love.
sent it to me too, y'all,
I
and I
know,
was
but
just like,
you
"What am I
were
supposed
just
to do with this?"
in the chat. I said,
I'm just in the
Dana,
chat, like,
Christy,
okay, I see
Dana,
you, brother.
Christy.
I
Yeah,
respect the
Dana.
game.
Oh, it
I'm
was.
like, I ain't
You
mad at
know,
him.
You know what though? It's worthy. It's worthy of the
yeah.
celebration.
It's
I
yeah, and you
right,
know
and
what?
you know, happened that I could hear y'all breathing through the chat. Like,
Yeah,
But here's the
like
thing.
I fell out.
Hilton, you have a healthy mind. It is okay
You
to
do.
acknowledge like a beautiful like
A
specimen.
beautiful
Like that is
man.
that's a healthy, that's a
ain't
super body.
nothing wrong with a brother who has worked hard to get down to
Come
2%
on.
body fat
You know what
and
I'm
make
saying?
himself. And look,
That's
I
hard to
appreciate it
do.
because he's got to play a believable character in Creed, right? Creed 3.
Yeah.
So I'm like, if
Yeah.
he came out there with the body he had in Lovecraft Country, wouldn't nobody believe he
Yeah,
beating
wasn't
up on
nobody go. Yeah, nobody was gonna
right
do
on
it.
Michael B. Jordan. It's not gonna work. So I know what he was doing, and he's dedicated to his craft, and I respect it.
Yes.
Now all the little side stuff and
Yeah.
all that stuff, I just don't
I
participate.
mean,
I
you
kind of look
know,
at it and be like, I respect the
that's
brother doing
right.
this
You
thing.
gonna
And
get one eventually. You're gonna get one eventually, Hilton. You just hold your
look,
horses.
you know what? I'm
Yeah.
a man, and they have catered to us for decades. So
Exactly.
we owe.
Yes,
We
thank
owe. So
you.
if a brother want to
That
flex his
part.
abs, because listen, and I'll say this to my
That
brothers out
part.
there in the world that's hating. If your
Yes.
body looked like that after you spent 2 years getting
You gonna be
40
without a
pounds of
shirt
muscle,
too.
you'd be up there in a feather dress too, trying to
Yes.
get every angle.
Yes.
Don't act like you wouldn't. Don't act like you wouldn't. So you can't be mad at him, and you
Right.
can't be mad at the ladies. Just be glad he
No.
don't live on your street. That's all I
Right.
can say. That's all I got to say.
Listen.
He's not in the
And
club at
we
happy hour competing with you to get them numbers. So just
right.
leave it, let it go.
Let it go. We are literally counting down to Ant-Man and the Wasp. We're only a few
Yes.
days away, and we will be doing a full coverage of all of it and just going through it and
We're
just
gonna give y'all
yeah.
2 weeks.
Yeah, we'll give you a few weeks, but
You
we
might
are
not
going
get that, so
to
don't sleep.
I know.
yeah, we might have to do
Stay off
we
our
might have to do
personal
a
social
live.
media.
We might have to do
Definitely
a
stay off mine.
live. I'm
Mute
so
me.
excited. I'm so excited. Well, another big trailer, a very, controversial movie, The Flash. We got the trailer for The Flash, and everyone has kind of been, Ezra Miller has been going through a lot of mental health issues, according to him, and a lot of things have been going on. He's been in the news for many different things, and it hasn't been related to the Flash. But what I will say, industry insiders have been saying that this movie is so amazing, that this is probably one of the best superhero movies we will ever get, we will ever see. So of course I always like I like the Flash from when we first got him in some of the earlier movies. Like he literally saved some of those movies for me. He was funny, and he brought, he's a great actor. There's no denying that. So I'm excited to see this movie, but we're going to watch the trailer and just kind of see what's going to happen. So let's do that. Let's get this trailer going.
Tell me something. You can go anywhere. Another timeline. Another universe. So why do you want to stay and fight to save this one? Because this is the world where my mom lives. I'm not going to lose her again.
They got me.
Time has a pattern that it can't help reliving. Different people, different worlds, drawn to each other like magnets. My face. You stole my face.
If you were to go into the past, you have no idea what the consequences can be. Bruce, I could fix things. You could also destroy everything.
This can't be happening. I completely broke the universe. God,
We've been waiting for you.
I created a world with no metahumans. And now there's no one to defend us.
Want some help?
Oh, damn.
Right.
You are.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's it.
Pretty much.
If I can't undo what I did, if I can't get back, there might not be a future. What's the play? Batman, what do we do?
We try not to die.
It's not Clark.
My name is Kara.
I'm
Well, we're Barry.
Barry, what are you doing? Our kids are gonna want to see this.
I know that's right.
That's hilarious.
Gosh.
Goosebumps. Just
Listen.
Like,
Oh,
come on. Like, okay, first of all, we're getting Ben Affleck as, you know, what is it?
Batman.
I can't even
Bruce
think
Wayne.
that Bruce Wayne,
Batman,
and then
Bruce
we're
Wayne.
getting Michael Keaton as Batman, and it's
Listen.
like if you don't go for no other reason, go for Michael Keaton.
Nothing else. Listen, don't nothing else matter. Nothing else matters. Nothing else matters. Y'all know how I feel about DC. Like,
They
I
might
saw
get it
that
right on this
and
one though.
I lost. I was like, I don't care how bad somebody is in another role. I don't care if the CGI is correct. I don't care if the storyline is bad. The fact that Michael Keaton is suited and booted as Batman again. That's all I care about. That's all I care about.
Suited and booted. You said it. You said it.
Yeah.
It's like, but it's like, I mean, but you can tell just from the trailer, there's a story there. And I mean, obviously they're doing their time travel thing and they're,
Very similar.
Yeah,
We've
they're
seen that
different.
before.
They're different, timelines and different, it isn't Clark Kent, it's Kara, but I mean, but still, it seems like they have really tapped into a story and they're going to tap into our hearts. And I mean, we're probably going to love it. I think we're going to, I mean, they pulled all the stops. Like, I mean, come on. I mean, Hilton, what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, there's the loose plot is called Flashpoint. And it's this comic series about how Barry goes back trying to prevent the murder of his mother. Which Ingvar Thawne, who was the Reverse Flash, killed his mother, and there's a whole storyline there. Right. I think they're going to take a little bit from that. I mean, there might be like 60-70% of the story that's following that because he is going back to do something that he thinks is good and ends up breaking reality that has all these unintended consequences. But we don't see some of the same players. Right, sort of, right, exactly. So the thing that is really exciting, and having Michael Keaton come back as Batman, I think is going to be amazing. The idea that in the comic, Zara was not the one. There was another character who's the son of Superman. The name escapes me right now, and so we're getting Supergirl in this, which is part of the reboot that James Gunn is talking about.
They're talking about
DCU. And this is the movie that's going to kind of launch that. And you see all of these different, I mean, there's so much to pick apart in this, and I won't get too much in the minutia, but you see he's created a world or has caused a world that doesn't have metahumans. So when Zod comes back, comes to Earth, there is no Superman to stop him. There are no metahumans to stop him. And so they have to create them or find them. And so he creates another Flash who is the Barry of this world, and he has the way in which he got his powers. And now there's two Flashes. They're doing a lot of amazing stuff. I think you're going to see a lot of flashbacks to Man of Steel and Superman 2. Wow. So there's going to be a lot of that going on in this movie, and it's so exciting because with all the drama that's going on with Ezra Miller, and he has been bad. He is, really, really, really screwing up. He is committing crimes. He is just being he's really in trouble. You wonder why, why does Warner Brothers not recast?
Why are they holding so tight?
It is because of what you just said, because the test audiences for this movie and all the screenings that they've done and all the critic review of the raw footage is that this is probably going to be the greatest movie. It's a 10 out of 10. They know they've got a hit on their hands, and the kind of time, money, and effort that they would need to put in to do reshoots or put somebody else in that role, they just aren't interested in doing, especially knowing that they need a hit. And not just for themselves and their pocketbooks, but also to launch this universe that James Gunn is going to kick off.
They need a big explosion. They need their Iron Man. They need something they need something that's going to spark this new phase and this new era of DC. Well, it definitely looks good. And you're right. Like, they literally have been holding on tight to this movie. Like, I know that Warner Brothers probably sent a whole rehab facility to Ezra Miller's house.
They done put a chloroform rag on his face.
They were like, you better get it together.
Sent him to Guam. A compound in Fiji you're going to be at.
Something's going on because they are really, really going for it. But I got chills. You got chills. And obviously in June, we are going to be lining up to see it.
Now remember, Guardians of the Galaxy is coming out on the 5th.
That's all I
June. The 16th is this movie, and we're just going to be barely getting our breath from the Guardians. And then going right in to see this. It's like,
de Mayo is a new meaning.
Y'all gonna be in there to see this,
already. It's gonna be great. One thing we know for sure is we got some amazing movies that are coming out in 2023. Like, we are just gonna they kicked it off with Wakanda Forever, and we're just not gonna. They're not gonna let us go. I think we're gonna have a fabulous year. All of us, our blurty hearts are gonna be full. So I'm super excited, and they actually seem like they're really good. So it's not like we're getting just some, they've spent time, effort, and money, and all of these creatives for all of these films and TV shows that we're anticipating. It's just gonna be a fun year. But one thing that came out that I have loved this show, and I've literally loved it for a very long time, but it's called Assembled. Assembled is a show that's on Disney Plus, and guys, I encourage you to watch it, even for shows that you're not into. Like, this show basically gives you you're the fly on the wall of the production. They talk to the writers, they talk to the producers, they talk to the creative, the set designers and the stunt coordinators, every single creative that comes to the table, things that we don't even think about. The team shows up, and you get to get the story behind how all of these amazing projects were made. I gave them the assignment recently to watch Assembled for Wakanda Forever, because that was obviously a movie we love, but they've had Assembled for Avenger movies. They've had Assembled for Loki. They've had Assembled for all of the Disney Plus stuff, plus a lot of the movies that have come out. Even shows that I wasn't into, I saw the Assembled and I was like, okay. And I went back and watched the show with a greater appreciation because of how it was made. And guys, they did not disappoint on the Assembled for Wakanda Forever. Literally the things that the actors had to do to prepare for these roles. They had a whole team of people who taught the actors all of the I can't even talk. All of the telecons. Yes. I don't know why that word seemed very hard for me. But all of them had to learn how to be underwater and have to be underwater for a long time. So it wasn't like, okay, we're going to go down, you shoot it. Like I mean, when you're shooting underwater, it's a whole nother beast. Like the guy, the stunt coordinator said, it's hard to shoot a movie on ground. So can you imagine shooting a movie underwater? That's 1,000 times harder. And like they learned, like I think Tenoch said he held his breath for like the longest he went was like 5 minutes that he could hold. They taught him how to hold his breath. The girl who played Nomura, she I think was the longest. She went up to like 7 or 8 minutes where she could be underwater. And like think about this: you have to go underwater. You have to learn how to hold your breath for like extended minutes of time, and you got to still act. And they said,
and you got to hear the cues and other people's lines and timing,
emotion.
Everything.
You got emotion underwater. Yeah.
And they had, I mean, they shot a lot of the movie underwater. Like, and you see, like Lupita was like, okay, I knew how to swim, but like I swam like a puppy. Like I didn't know how to swim like I was like a hero. Yeah. Like, I mean, think about it. All of us probably know how to swim, but like the swim for a movie is different, you know? And so, I mean, well, and even like the Telecons, they swam like they were like kind of like part fish. So it was really like the stunt team and the thought that went into this. And I mean, Ruth, she comes on and starts talking about them costumes, and honey, I just want to go in that warehouse. Like that warehouse costumes is ridiculous. But Hilton, I could tell Christi didn't watch it because just the faces she was making. So, and girl, you are missing out.
I'm going to.
Everything you loved about Wakanda Forever, you got that same connection because the process is as emotional and as deliberate as the final product that we saw on the screen. And you got to see the actors processing the loss of Chadwick as they're all coming together in a space that they had always shared with him. And now the lines are reflecting that, and their characters are having to have some of the same emotions that they're having. And it's all so authentic that they're tapping into real pain and real loss and all having to adjust in the same way as their character had to do. But, to your point about having this, the bringing the Talokan to life, you got to see the minutia of that. And yes, the water's part of it, but you also like the Mayan language. I mean, this is a dead language. Nobody's speaking it, right?
Nobody.
So there's like a dozen people on the planet who, from an archival perspective, have learned and have kept this language alive. And those people are
the people they hired.
The lines. Imagine having to speak these lines and not know what you're saying. It's not a language that you can process at your brain. And then having to change a line, because they changed the scene.
My gosh.
And then the language interpreter has to come in, inject that line again. And if you're doing English, that's one thing. Well, say that instead of this. But if you didn't know that word to begin with, and now you got to say another word that you never heard before in another sequence to stay on point with that. I mean, it was just this amazing process. And then the fact that they had this, this approach to live action. Like they knew that there was some things that they could only do through CGI, but they were just like, we're only going to use CGI to enhance certain aspects of the live action. So the performances and things like that are underwater, we want them to be underwater. We want them to move underwater. And that authenticity comes through on the screen. And now you see how they achieved it. The only thing that really stood out to me is that I hearken back to James Cameron when you look at the making of The Abyss, right?
Yes.
And some of his this latest Avatar movie and the water scenes and how they prepare for that. Like he had whole sets underwater. And so we're like, oh my God, like they're actually going as hard as James Cameron to get these performances. And it's just, I mean, it's, if you love that franchise, if you love that movie, all the notes that you see, I mean, I got as emotional, I got as it just locked in as I did when I was watching the movie.
You cry, Christi. You cry. Like they start off. Hold on. Let me tell you this one thing. They start off with Chadwick. And they start off with him being on set. And like you hear Ryan Coogler talk about, you know, he was like, you know, this is what's her name? She played Shuri. Gosh, why can't I think? I have literally have
Letitia Wright.
Letitia Wright. He
Letitia
goes, Letitia Wright. He goes, she didn't audition for this role. She auditioned to be his sister, who was funny, and she was going to be quick witted, and she was like kind of like bring this youthful light to Chadwick and to T'Challa's life. Like that was kind of the role that she auditioned for. And he goes, and then we lose Chadwick. And I had to sit down with her, and she talks about like he sat down with me and had to convince her to kind of say, do this movie. And you see them on set together, and I mean every single tear that they cried on that in front of that camera were tears that they cried beyond after the camera stopped rolling. They cried. Those were real tears, and the emotion, and they showed like they kind of show you how like when they were auditioning for Shuri, like Riri Williams, she had Dominique Thorne, who played Riri Williams, she had auditioned for Shuri, and you see Chadwick, and of all things, he's wearing one of those shirts that says, you know, stop cancer, or
something like
and
that.
it's just like, oh my gosh. And now that we know what we know, it's just so deep. And I know
Dominique's performance
was good.
She was like actually a dope Shuri, like watching the screen test. I'm like, she could have been Shuri, but Letitia is Shuri now. So you know, you see her range.
And they say like, you learn so much. And then they said like when it came to casting Riri Williams, she was the only one they called because she was that good in her, but she just wasn't Shuri. But you appreciate filmmaking. You would love this show.
So listen, let me say this about just this, what happened with me when it came to this, just for now. So when I saw that, and I had already seen a few clips from the assembled, you know, the whole wheelhouse. Well, I pressed play. And they opened up, and I turned it off. Because I'm gonna tell you what happened. I had just watched Wakanda Forever, and I was like, I was a mess all over again when it first came out on streaming. I made it that day. I made sure that the first day of Black History Month, the day that it came out, I turned it on.
Me too. I was like, if I don't watch anything else, I'm watching this movie.
I did. And even though, I mean, I cried like a freaking baby. And then the following, a few days later, I ended up showing it to my kids in this space. And so it was part of history. I did a whole lesson, like I did a speech. I even decorated. I took some of my set down.
The kids that she teaches. So
yes.
You got a residential school.
Yes. So I made it a moment in history and culture, and again explaining how this is a real life that is now lost, and this was the beginning of this incredible, new journey for us as an entire culture, as an entire people, and an existence. And so, honey, when I pressed play on that assembled, I thought I was, and I cried every single time. So I just was like, I'm tired. Like I just had to pause. And then,
it's an emotional journey.
To it.
Well, I'll say this. Right. You'll cry in the beginning, and then they're obviously not going to leave you there, but they have to, like, he's a part of everything. He's a part of it all. So they never, like, that's one thing I love about this cast and this crew is that they have not left him out of this. Like he is right there with them. But then you meet all of these professionals that it's just, I
can't wait.
The work, the attention to detail. And like Hilton was talking about, the languages, like they are literally like, there's no like half stepping. Like they didn't just go, okay, like they worked for months on these dialects and they worked for months and they were like, it's so hard. I was like, oh my God.
Language that is not a Romance language, meaning, from, Greek Roman that has a lot of those same intonations and sentence structures. Right. If you're not used to processing language that way, it's so much harder to learn. And it's a language no one has heard.
It's like Senegalese. They say Senegalese is so hard to speak.
Yeah, like you got to like make noises with your mouth that you don't make.
Yeah.
So the fact that they put so much emphasis on getting even the things that the average person misses some of these details because we're emotional, because we're enjoying the ride. And that's why we watch these movies multiple times, because every time you watch it, you pick up a little something that you didn't see the first 2, 3, or 4 times, right? And movies like this are good for that reason, is that they provide that kind of content so that, you know, if I'm watching this again, I'm not going to be off on my phone or something. I'm going to get sucked in, and I'm going to be like, you know, I didn't even notice that was there. I didn't even notice that person was, you know, was laid, like the scene was laid out that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and I got to say this, because we say this every time. If you don't have Disney Plus, what's wrong with your life?
What is wrong with you?
Like what? It's, you know,
at least do that.
It just, they're doing.
I want to pass out my password, because it's not like Netflix. They're not trying to come down on people for sharing. So
we don't say it in a negative context. We say it in a negative context, but it's actually a good one in this case. Like Disney Plus is doing too much. Like they got everything is happening on Disney Plus.
Doing the most.
And they're
doing
the most.
Best way.
Like you're like, you know, they don't have to do Assemble. They done made $1 billion off of this movie. But they want you to buy into the world, and they want you to understand what they're doing and who the actors are and who these characters they're building are. And so that when the next movie comes along, you're bought
so
in.
invested.
And you're invested.
So invested.
And for the kind of money that they're charging, again, it's not $50 a month. It's like what, $10, $15, something ridiculous.
It's like $9.99 or something.
Like,
I don't even know what it is. It's so cheap. It's one of the cheaper ones.
And if you haven't seen if you haven't been on it before, there's this whole ocean, no pun intended, of content. Because just like Karen said, there are like 10, 15 assembled episodes that you can go through that have movies and TV shows and all of this stuff. There's just so much content, so that you can follow along with what is going to be a phase 5 that's going to be very complicated. Phase 5 is going to have as many shows as movies. And for the first time, like all of these movies are going to be tied into the shows. And if you miss a show, there's going to be context in a movie that you're going to miss out on. Yeah. And there's no reason to put yourself through that.
It's so interconnected. Like you've got to watch. Like everything touches everything. This is like a multiverse that just like.
And you said it. When you bring in the multiverse, and there's going to be 3 Iron Men, and there's going to be, and when they do recast T'Challa, which they will do somehow, some way,
they will.
There's going to be part of it that's going to be in Secret Invasion, and part of it's going to be in Armor Wars, and then some of it's going to be, you know, in Avengers 6. I mean, you're going to have to kind of keep up with all of this stuff, but to your own benefit, because you know the opportunity to digest and process this content, especially to Christi's point, the fact that some of this is so emotional. And it hits home so hard. If the only opportunity Christi had to encounter this media was through the movies, you know, you wouldn't be able to keep going back and forth to the movie like 5, 6 times to keep engaging with the content. The fact that you do have it
3-hour movie,
screen, is a way for you to kind of process it and really, really enjoy it to its fullest possibility. So again, we're not sponsored by Disney Plus.
No,
we're just telling you. If you're a nerd,
fans.
You like this content,
right?
You should be. So
who do we call? Because we've devoted like 50 shows to you guys already. I mean, but no, it is literally. If you are, and one thing I love, because for me, I'm a filmmaker, and I mean, aspiring filmmakers, you have to watch Assembled, because the level of filmmaking that these TV shows, these movies, the things that they are, you know, you get mad because you have to wait 3-4 years to get one, but it's like, this is why they can't just roll this out. Like, how many years did we wait for we waited for Wakanda Forever for like what, 3-4 years, but
4 years.
Now we understand, because why, and like the process of who they picked and the actors, and just like the actors are dedication, and I just love like when you get to know the people, like you get to know the real people, you know, and what it really meant to them.
And this is exactly why. This is exactly why everything you all just said. Now, let me just say this real quickly. Now, I watch behind the scenes, anything I can get my hands on behind the scenes. I love that. It was this particular thing, and I think it was the timing of it. Sure. And I've been a little emotional. Like we just came through full moon. It's just a lot going on. And so I couldn't handle it in that moment. But that's the only reason why I'm a little tardy to it. But I'm aware of what it is and how important that is to me, just personally and professionally. Now, having said that, this is why when people try to bullcrap these arguments about Marvel films and whatnot, it's like, listen, y'all, we can see, those of us who are got a pulse and got some eyeballs and some ears, we can see and hear and understand and process how much work, how much, I mean, incredible talent goes into making these films that they have now, because it's a signature now. Like, we don't, I can't anticipate something less than anymore from them, because they have mastered their craft. And in this particular story, you know, out of all the many stories they have, like, it's been perfection, one right after the other. And there's going to be much, much more. And so I agree. Everybody should see this. And again, especially those so-called professionals who are legends in the industry,
internet professionals.
Like, exactly. Well, even not only them, but also again, and I love this dude, you know, because he's done some things that I feel like I take notes from. Even the Tarantinos of the world, who feel like that's not the same. They don't do the same thing. Well, you don't. But there is a level of crafty creativity, talent, and skill, and just immense amazingness. I don't know. I ran out of
like
words.
The choice of, like, they even say, like, they were like, you know, they were talking about Ruth Carter, and they were like, she researches, like, there's no more research you can do. She's turned over every freaking stone in Africa, every freaking stone, and like, she's researched. Like, so these costumes aren't just pretty. They're not just well crafted. They are. There's a thought, a meaning, and there is a tribe. Yeah, and there is a tribe that she pulled from of real history and culture and legacy, and that's why this stuff. You know, that's why she wins the Oscar, like, hands down. Like, there's just really no one else that I know that's doing this level of craftsmanship.
And I think even more importantly, you know, for particularly this movie, there's always this controversy about why they didn't recast T'Challa and why did they go in this direction and blah, blah, blah. You can see the intentionality behind the scenes of why they chose one thing over another, why they chose not to recast T'Challa. Why did they choose to take, you know, Shuri and elevate her? And, you know, you may not know all of those backstories, and everybody likes the Monday morning quarterback and say they should have done this and should have done that. And I'm just like,
my gosh,
you know, I'm quick to tell people that, you know, you guys ask for stuff you don't want. You know, if they had recast T'Challa, y'all'd be online complaining about who they cast as T'Challa.
God. And it was
you'd
too
be mad
soon.
At the movie, or you'd be mad because they skipped over a whole chapter and blah, 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 blah. And these ideas that are floating out here from people who are not professionals, who've never been behind a camera, who've never acted a line, you know, who don't know how movies are made, don't understand how a multiverse, you know, makes movies that have to fit. And they don't understand that, you know, Ryan Coogler is as great and creative and powerful a voice as he is. He's got to fit inside a universe that Kevin Feige approved.
They're like, planned out.
They have planned out the next 10 years of this movie and media conglomerate. And you have to make a movie that fits in that box to a certain degree, even though he's gotten a lot of leeway to make the story that we saw.
Which is a beautiful thing. God,
and what I really think is moving the needle on this, not just this franchise, but the fact that, you know, fantasy, sci-fi, horror, and superhero movies are being more mainstream appreciated. The fact that, you know, 30 years ago, we would never be talking about a movie that affected us so much so that we weren't able to see a behind the scenes, or were not able to watch the movie without crying, without it being some super melodrama, you know, like Steel Magnolias or, you know, Beaches. And, you know, like, those are the movies that we used to be like, I can't watch this without getting emotional. And here we are talking about a fictional character in a fictional land and a fictional universe that existed in comic books that used to get made fun of. are now movies and characters that we appreciate and understand so much that we feel the loss of the character as much as we feel the loss of the actors that played them. And that's a testament to the quality of the movie making and storytelling that is coming out with these movies. So all of you folks out there who may know someone, because I know if you're watching this, you're not one of them, who thinks that, I don't like superhero movies, or I don't watch fantasy movies, or I don't watch movies about comic book stuff and Yeah. Those folks have to come out off that fence. That roof is getting smaller and smaller because
these are quality stories. Like let it go. Quality stories. You're missing out on good movie making.
Yeah.
Shit up.
Shit it up. Zip it. www.zipit.com. Like
I got a whole bag with your name on it.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. And you will watch Assembled in there, like I said before, there are an assemble for the Avenger movies, for Thor, for every single film, TV show that we've gotten the last year, 2 years, they have an assembled for it. Watch them. You will appreciate the filmmaking, and you will appreciate the people that are behind the camera as much as you appreciate the people that are in front of it. And it just makes me mad that Wakanda Forever didn't get more Oscar nominations, because the work that went into this movie, it needed to be appreciated. Come on. But they did get some good ones. But needless to say, we're going to celebrate it here on the BOP today, tomorrow, every other day. So guys, thank you for tuning in. We are so happy you were here. We hope you had some fun with us. And you know what? Tune in next week, because we're going to have a whole nother BOP, and we're going to just, bye guys, we love you, we mean it. Tune in every Tuesday for a new episode of the BOP, the BLERD official podcast.